Edmonton Oilers listed at 105.5 points. Over or under that? Think about that for a second, and then take this into consideration. When you think about the Edmonton Oilers, you look at this team and you go, how can they not win the division in the regular season? Mm-hmm. But then you also look at them and go, how can they get past the Golden Knights in the playoffs? So with that in mind, this is all about the regular season. What do we say for the over-under? 105.5 points. Guys, do you take the over or the under? I'm
headbutting the over. I'm jumping on the over with both feet.
Jesse?
I'll take the over on that one.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. This is a team that's undeniably built for success in the regular season, or has been in the past. They've had tons of success in the regular season, and they've had some pretty good, not a good enough by their standards, success in the playoffs.
They lost the last 2 years Stanley Cup champion.
I know.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
But still.
Well, and the difference is two years ago, they were utterly dominated by the Stanley Cup champion.
Yep.
Last year, they were probably the Stanley Cup champions' biggest challenge. Mm-hmm. This is a team that's ready, frankly. They're ready to go for it. They smell blood. They have this crazy look in their eye, and not just Connor McDavid, and the unbelievable abundance of pictures they make this guy take.
Yeah.
Stop. It's mean.
It's too bad.
It's mean. I know he's the biggest star, but it's mean.
I know you want to talk about scoring. I don't. Not to start anyway. I want to ask you guys about this.
Well, we all know they can do that.
Do the Edmonton Oilers, knowing who their true starter is, which is Stuart Skinner, does that give them an advantage going into this season? Because last year it was definitely Jack Campbell, look at that contract, and now it's very definitely Stuart Skinner with Jack Campbell playing 30-something.
Jack Campbell's got to be the starter. You got to figure out a way for Jack Campbell to be the starter. Stuart Skinner's playoff numbers. He had an 883 in 12 games.
That's rough.
3.68 GAA. He was horrendous in the playoffs, and he didn't start a single game. He came in relief of Stuart Skinner because they decided by the time the playoffs came around that they would run with Stuart Skinner, and that was their guy, and he was awful. I think for the sake of the contract and for the sake of the team, you have to find a way to get Jack Campbell back to starter form.
Jack Campbell's career playoff numbers are interesting. 228 goals against average, 920 save percentage, but
he had a high save percentage with the Leafs, but if you go back to that dastardly Montreal series, some of those goals.
But here's the thing. Here's why you couldn't start Jack, and here's why Stuart Skinner has to be the starter, in my opinion, is Jack's numbers last year. But despite being 21-9, he had an 888 save percentage and a 341 goals against average.
That's better than Stuart Skinner. That's still better than Stuart Skinner was in the playoffs.
Here's what's incredible.
But this is a regular season thing.
What's incredible about Campbell being an 888 on the season is his first half was so much worse than that. He was unusable, but that means he actually put together like a improved, usable at very least second half. It's an 82-game season. I think the starting position has got to be jump ball. I think you got to use these guys in a tandem, keeps them both fresh, keeps them competitive, and you got to be open to the idea that Skinner's going to be the starter for a while. Campbell's going to be the starter for a while, and you figure it out once the playoffs arrive. But maybe it's still a tandem situation in the playoffs, not where you're switching back and forth arbitrarily. We've seen that bite a few teams in the butt. But if a guy has two back-to-back tough games, you got to switch.
Yeah, I think, Steve, you make the best point when you just tell us how many games there are in the regular season, which is how many?
82!
82 games is so many games.
It's so many games!
You go into game one and you say, we don't have a starting goaltender because one was awful in the playoffs and one was bad in the regular season. Guys, go play it out. It's either Campbell or Stuart Skinner, and they're going to figure it out themselves. And by the time you reach the playoffs, you have
82 games
to figure this situation out.
All right, now how does having a healthy Evander Kane all the way through camp and starting the year help this team?
Helps him score even more goals. I
mean, even when he was injured and came back, he was very effective.
Yes, he was. And Connor Brown is going to be good for them. Zach Hyman is going to be good for them. They have so many guys who can chip in like a sneaky 15, 20, 25 goal season. Actually, Hyman has, I believe, more than one season with more than that. Mm-hmm. Connor Brown basically didn't play hockey last year. He doesn't count. Evander Kane on this Oilers team, I don't think he's this kind of player. But on the Oilers, If he's healthy, he can score like 40 goals. It's absolutely ridiculous. So it's funny when you said a healthy. That is not the name that I expected to come.
Who did you think?
I thought you were going to say Mattias Ekholm.
Well, I was going to get to him next. How does an entire year of, by the way, there are more Matthiases on Edmonton than there is anywhere else. It's the home of the Matthiases. Janmark and Ekholm.
Janmark?
Two.
Wow. That's a ton.
Edmonton, home of the Matthias.
Man.
Mattii.
But the Matai. Yes.
Mattias Ekholm, what does he do for this team? Healthy and for how many games?
82!
Ideally.
Yeah, he doesn't need to play all 82, and it certainly doesn't sound like he's going to. But to quote the big Lebowski, he really tied the room together. Like, look at this D-core. It's still not very good. Like, let's be honest. Nurse, Ceci is a nightmare of a top pairing. They can help move the puck, but oof. Ekholm Bouchard, to me, is clearly the top pairing of this team. You have a guy who is, potentially going to lead all defensemen in scoring next year, a full season on PP1. Evan Bouchard, that's going to be ridiculous. And then Kulak Desharnais. Kulak's fine on the third pair. Desharnais a bit
Seaweed
of a
Man.
nightmare still. It's the worst nickname in all of
Vinny
sports.
Seaweed Man Desharnais, because apparently it's like getting into the weeds, except for that's how Oiler fans feel when he has to move the puck.
Yeah, like you need league average D. And I still don't even know if they're there, but Ekholm makes them so much closer to it. It was such a good pickup from Ken Holland.
We're a little far removed from the playoffs, so it's hard to remember, but Darnell Nurse did not have a good playoffs.
I don't think he had a great season, man.
He wasn't great defensively, and that's where he struggled most is in his own end. And
wasn't he hurt? Like he was terrible.
I think everybody's a little hurt, and I think at that point it's not really an excuse. I think
that's where depth comes into play, right?
Yeah, he was hurt to the point where it's like, I don't know if you're one of the 6 best guys.
Yeah,
and he makes $9.5 million
for this season. You need Darnell Nurse to be better than what he was.
Yes.
He struggled just mightily, and for that amount of money, I just hope Darnell Nurse steps up and is a little better of a player.
Cody Ceci seems to have found a fit there. But you talked about it, Steve, and I want to ask you guys both. That's a nightmare of a top pairing. Why?
They can't defend, and I know I said they can move the puck. Darnell Nurse is the they.
Well,
Cece's not the greatest at that either.
But don't we think, because Darnell Nurse had from day one top end talent, and I don't think he doesn't have to be completely done his development. He can't. The thing about defense is it is learned. Right. Offense is, to me, sometimes it's God-given. Like, it's crazy. Some people just have it. Defense, you can just learn, and you can be grittier, and you can be meaner, and you can be more committed to it. Can you see that happening from Darnell Nurse, guys? Can you see him taking a step forward in that part of the ice?
I think for Darnell Nurse, it might be even more about systems, because I don't even think he struggles a lot in like getting the puck out of his own zone or working offensively. It's a matter of him playing in his own defensive end and on rushes getting turnstiled enough or not making the right decision when he's along the boards and he's deep behind his own net. Like the real defensive aspect of the defensive game for Darnell Nurse seems to be where he gets most exposed. So I hope maybe somebody on the coaching staff can work with him there and maybe develop a system where Darnell Nurse can play within that, because he hasn't been good this part of his career.
To me, it's health. Like guys his age, he's in his mid-20s.
28.
He's 28. He's getting there. He's getting there, but he's in his prime. Guys at his age rarely have the worst season of their career and then continue to get worse. And I don't even know if you could call it the worst season of his career, but I mean, defensively, maybe you could. He really got exposed. Mm-hmm. Having Ekholm back there, especially on the left side, takes a huge burden off his shoulders. And having that the whole season instead of just from the deadline on, I think is going to be huge.
I think Barry was a little bit of a liability when he's added to that defense pairings in there.
And ironically, like that was a trade that was great for both. Both guys involved. Evan Bouchard obviously got a lot more ice time, and Barry was sneakily unreal in Nashville.
Yeah.
He almost willed them to the playoffs with basically an AHL roster.
And we didn't mention we didn't really spend a lot of time on the top six, but that top six with the addition of Connor Brown, it might be so good that the defense doesn't matter again.
Right.
There was a lot of times the Oilers play games and who cares about defense? They're going to put up 100 goals.
Is there any reason to think we shouldn't expect at least 50 goals out of both McDavid and Draisaitl? Is there any reason to expect we should expect less than 130 points from McDavid, less than 115, 20 from Draisaitl?
And you're not even including the playoffs, because playoff Leon Draisaitl is he's
Nugent Hopkins had 100 points.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it only got better. Like Connor Brown, we haven't seen him play hockey in a year, but he's gonna just thrive in this top six. I don't know if there's a better one in the National Hockey League.
That is, those two guys have had a blessed career, man.
Hyman and Brown?
Yeah.
They have. Yeah. Now, okay, here's the question, guys. Where do you have the Oilers finishing this year in the division?
First, no hesitation. Playoffs, yes, it's a different conversation. They're in the same division as the reigning defending Stanley Cup champions. Mm-hmm. This is a regular season conversation. First.
Jesse Blake.
I have them second.
Whoa! I can't wait to see who you have first. I also have them in first in the regular season.
Sharks?
Do they break through in the playoffs? Guess it remains to be seen.